You are listening to the Football Diehards podcast with your hosts, Justin Lonero and Bob Harris, sponsored by DraftKings. Sign up now using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS. Make a first-time $5 deposit, and you'll receive a free $3 ticket.
Hello and welcome to the Football Diehards podcast. I'm your host, Justin Lonero, on Twitter at Justin Lonero, along with my co-host, as always, Mr. Bob Harris. On Twitter at Football Diehard, and our executive producer is on the line this evening, Mr. Kyle Dvorchak at FF Kyle the Kid on Twitter. Gentlemen, it's week 15. Mr. Harris, what is good in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Everything is fantastic here. It's icy cold. I don't know. I don't go outside. You guys know that. It's busy time. It's winning time. We're heading into the fantasy playoffs for week 15. Justin, you want to go ahead and tell them what DraftKings has in store for them if they want to go play a little daily fantasy in case, like somehow you're not in your playoffs?
Right. Well, that's exactly. It's kind of a revitalization of the NFL fantasy football, aspect because your season-long leagues have come and gone, and it gives you a little recharge. So if you sign up, if you're a first-time user of DraftKings, sign up using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS, which Sigmund Bloom says in our intro. We'll give you a free ticket, make a $5 deposit. They are the best in the business, and they are the sponsor of this show. So we love the people at DraftKings, and in season, that's pretty much what we talk about when we touch on all aspects of the NFL and fantasy football.
Right. I think sometimes, it's good to hash out some of the differences we have, to figure out the bigger questions in life. So let me go to you first, Kyle. Kendrick Lamar or Tupac Shakur?
Oh, God damn it. All right, right now, at this exact time, Tupac. By the end of the career, Kendrick will have it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like Willie Mays or Bryce Harper. All
right. Let me try this one. Justin, Zach Zenner or Barry Sanders?
I swear to God.
Look, Barry Sanders
Who's a good player in his own right.
Barry Sanders was 5'5", could squat close to 900 pounds. He made the food taste better every Thanksgiving when we saw the Lions. He sailed off into the sunset with his body preserved, rushed for 1,000 yards every season in the NFL. Barry Sanders is the best running back I have ever seen. It's not even close. But Zach Zenner is a doctor, and he punched one in last week, so I knew you had a hard on.
Hey, can we tell? Somewhere Snoop Dogg is saying nodding and saying faux rizzle. Get some pins. They are not sponsoring us, by the way, and I'm probably the one old enough to use that. But
if you couldn't tell, it's a slow news week. But Bob, what do we got going on this week? It wasn't last week where you had the waiver wire bonanza.
No.
What's going on this week? Tell me.
There are some issues that we have to deal with, and we kind of got to work through some issues at running back. And part of this is going to be, your needs heading into the games. We've got the Chargers and Chiefs on Thursday night, Jets and Texans and Browns and Broncos on Saturday. Everyone else playing Sunday and Monday games. So with the Chargers and Chiefs, Melvin Gordon seems likely to give it he seems likely to make you wait until pregame to decide you can't play him. The early reporting was it doesn't look good for him. Austin Eckler, by the way, bruised nerve at his neck, had some dizziness, so he's in the concussion protocol. By its nature, it's going to be difficult for him to gain clearance before the Thursday game. The process takes longer than that. So count him out. So it's Melvin Gordon or Justin Jackson. We've all been dying to play Justin Jackson. A week ago, heading into the Bengals game for the Chargers, I predicted he would have RB1 numbers. Mm-hmm. I want to move that prediction to this week, but only if Melvin Gordon doesn't play. On the other side of the ball, Spencer Ware's dealing with shoulder and hamstring issues. Damian Williams standing by. The Jets, they have, 3 running backs not practicing today. That's Isaiah Crowell, who seems unlikely to play, in my estimation. Told Rich Cimini from ESPN.com that he was in excruciating pain when he injured his foot, wearing a walking boot on Tuesday as we record this. So not looking good for him. Elijah McGuire is a guy that seems likely to pick up the workload. Trent Cannon and McGuire both not practicing Tuesday. Don't panic about that. Give McGuire a day or so and watch for roster moves. For the Broncos, we saw some things play out in terms of wide receivers. Cortland Sutton drawing the heavy coverage, maybe came up a little shorter than we would have liked. A couple catches on a half dozen targets. It was Deshaun Hamilton and Tim Patrick who were the big movers and shakers going against the Browns this week. Look, I'm hard pressed to play any of these guys. Just Kyle, how would you roll out the Chargers? Are you waiting to see if Justin Jackson's going? And if he is, if there is no Melvin Gordon, will you be playing Justin Jackson ahead of a lot of guys playing on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm with you, moving that prediction up a week on the contingency that Melvin Gordon doesn't play. It's just get a piece of these awesome game totals. That's where you make your big splash touchdown games. And if Justin Jackson is going to be the guy with no Melvin Gordon, with no Austin Eckler, and that's a big if, we will see. Follow us on Twitter to stay updated on those news items. But if he is, it is, I don't want to say lock for an RB1, but he has that extreme game-winning upside. And you can get that game-winning upside before any of the games really start. So I think that's, if he's the only running back they have out of those three, you have to play him and you have to expect a lot of points.
We like what we saw from him down the stretch against Pittsburgh. He got that second half run when they were, trying to work the lead a little bit, work the clock a little bit. And boy, is that not the best play? So, Justin, we haven't talked about this as much this year. This Mahomes kid, I don't know where he came from. It turns out he doesn't even look where he throws. What kind of quarterback does? Oh, a good quarterback, maybe. Let's. How do you feel about the Chiefs in this matchup?
I like them. I mean, it looks like Tyreek Hill is going to play.
Yep.
Look, it's not good. The fact that they lost Kareem Hunt. I mean, let's be honest, gentlemen. I mean, Spencer Ware is Spencer Ware. I think he's somewhat of a plotter. We saw him a couple of years ago, relatively successful, but they might be one-dimensional heading into the playoffs, and I think that's a scary notion. I know we talk about how running backs aren't important, but they are important in real life. You want to have that balance. I don't know that Spencer Ware is going to be able to provide that. But that being said, I was dead wrong on Patrick Mahomes. He is the future of the NFL, and the kid he just has it. I think when you see him with your eyes, he obviously passes the eyeball test, but he has that mox and confidence and the weaponry around him. Thank God for players like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, because you're not going to mourn the loss of a player like Kareem Hunt as much as a lot of other teams would.
Yeah, he actually changes the entire definition of eyeball test. He doesn't just pass it.
It's crazy.
It's pretty amazing. The Saturday games, the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield starting to come on and demonstrate. It's been much better since they've gotten rid of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley for him. Freddie Kitchens clearly has figured out how this offense works. It goes through the running backs first. Nick Chubb's. Kyle, talk a little bit about what your expectations would be for him in this week.
Yeah, you have to expect him to just get the bulk of the carries every single week now. It just seems like they're willing to grind it out with him and kind of, leave Duke Johnson in the dust, which is unfortunate because he's a guy we really like, but his usage seems so much more situational compared to a guy like Nick Chubb. And now that the Browns' offense is clicking, they should be in more neutral game scripts, which is even better for a guy like Nick Chubb, who's dominating the rushing workload, but his receiving workload is light. I think he had a stretch of 3 or 4 games with 3 targets and maybe even 3 receptions. I think he caught most, if not all of them. But that's not what you're going for. You're going for the high percentage of the team's carries. And now the Browns' offense is good. That will be consistent week to week. And I think that's what you get a good floor with him, even if not the highest ceiling of a guy like Justin Jackson, who maybe gets the workload, but definitely if he does is scoring a ton. So I think he's a great floor play on every.
Right. And that's what Duke Johnson is there for. I mean, I always say Duke Johnson is, every team yearns for a Duke Johnson. He just has not been non-existent. So you're seeing Chubb not be that involved in the passing game, but I thought we all thought that.
He had a few targets though this last game. I mean, that seems to be an evolving thing a little bit.
Yep.
And by the way, if you don't do this, head to the Football Diehards website. Check out Kyle's new column, the volume report out now. Justin will be out later this week, usually on Friday with the digging into DFS crates. I highly recommend both those. Great reads, more in-depth information from these two as I make them gloss over things on the podcast, other than Kendrick Lamar, because I think he's amazing. All right, Minnesota Vikings following Monday night's brutal beatdown at the hands of the Seattle Seahawks. 21-7. It was much closer than the final score indicates, but not really that close. The Vikings offense abysmal. Once again, Kirk Cousins failure to look for his primary guys. John DeFilippo was the scapegoat for that today. Fired the offensive coordinator. So look, I don't know how. Does this have a huge impact on how you set your lineups this week? This change of of play callers. I mean, look, you're still going to play Dalvin Cook. You're still playing Adam Thielen. You're still playing Stephon Diggs. Are you maybe dialing back on Kirk Cousins? Not because of the play caller. You're dialing back because of Kirk Cousins, if you're dialing back at all. So I don't know. Is this kind of a wash? It's Kevin Stefanski is coming in, the quarterback's coach. Does this make any difference at all, or are you just playing what you already know based on the talent and the hoped-for role, Justin?
Well, look, I mean, this is a team. When you look at them on paper, they have as much weaponry as anybody. You have arguably the best duo of wide receivers in the NFL. You have a top 10 tight end in Kyle Rudolph. You have who I think Dalvin Cook is a top 15 running back in the NFL. The offensive line has been putrid.
There we go. Bingo.
So there you go. So you're not, Kirk Cousins is not upright. He's obviously not Joe Montana, but the lanes aren't being created. There's not a lot of push. So what are you going to do? We've seen that problematic in Seattle in years past. So look, you have the talent now. You utilize it, and we're seeing that in Cleveland now. Like Kyle was just talking about, the talent is there. Now it's time to get creative. But if the offensive line is terrible, I mean, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, and we saw this run happy, and I call it happy, run heavy. You can call it whatever you want. The Seahawks run, and they don't throw a lot. And Russell Wilson's fantasy production, which has been reasonably good, was demonstrated. I mean, he's been remarkably efficient. He's on, I think, on track for a career low in attempts, which should go without saying. It's been ridiculous. But unless he gets the touchdown, unless David Moore says, "Oh, look where my feet are," it's not going to be good for you. How do you feel about the Seahawks offense, Kyle, going forward, particularly Russell Wilson?
Sad. He's averaging, I believe it's 8.4% touchdown rate and right around 9 yards per attempt. How are you not throwing 50 times a game, even if his efficiency obviously comes down? Come on. But yeah, I mean, it's the floor just isn't there because of how little they want to use maybe the best quarterback playing right now outside of Patrick Mahomes, and he's right there in second place just for me. And he's playing, when you watch him, when you look at statistics, just use him more. But like I said, the volume makes him a low floor but incredibly high ceiling game. He could throw 20 times and get 4 to 5 touchdowns. He's done that once already, and it's I believe it might have happened against the 49ers. And
it did.
Did they play this week?
The 49ers.
Week 13.
Somewhere Sierra is pointing at you, Kyle, and saying, "Damn Skippy, son." All right, let's go. So not a ton of news this week. We'll kind of go through. We kind of been through some of the things that are of interest. Mostly it's running back injuries. James Conner's another one we'll be watching as we head into Sunday, whether it'll be Jalen Samuels or not. But I want to get into the DFS late for Sunday. So we'll start with the quarterback position. Justin?
Well, gentlemen, it's a pass-happy league, and I said this last week, so there's always going to be a plethora of quarterbacks that we can use. I wrote up Nick Mullins last week and digging in the crates, and he had over 20 DraftKings points at Denver. So I think that's a testament as to what I just said. He was, I'm going to say, 4,400 and got you over 20 DraftKings points. So you're perfectly content with that. Up top, you have to love Russell Wilson. I mean, I don't find it necessary that you're going to spend $6,700 for him on the road, but obviously he can do it with his legs. He doesn't have to throw the ball a ton to have 4 touchdowns, and he did it week 13 against the 49ers. I'm looking kind of in the middle, and I'm the one quarterback that's gravitated towards me. First of all, I want a big piece of this Pittsburgh New England Patriots game. I like Brady on the road. I think he's going to bounce back. I think he's going to be low owned in tournaments, so I'm fine with that there. Josh Allen for me, 5,800, doing it with his leg. Call me chasing points, call me crazy a little bit, but there hasn't been any slowing him down at this point in time. So I like the fact that he's rushed for over 100 yards the last 2 weeks, a couple of touchdowns. So give me some Josh Allen. And one more player I will name, because, again, it's only Tuesday. We record on Tuesday. Will be Dak Prescott on a fast track. I like, again, the cohesiveness. Amari Cooper, beautiful story there. Give me Dak Prescott, 5,500, I think is a ceiling. Right now, is with Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott, his floor and ceiling is just about as high as anybody's. So give me some Dak Prescott, 5,500. I love it on the road.
Amari Cooper has added amazingly to that offense, and you mentioned Josh Allen, and you are buying the rushing ability, but so far there's no reason to believe it stops. With 101 yards this past week, he became the first quarterback of the Super Bowl era For you kids, that's from 1966. To rush for at least 100 yards in consecutive games, 335 yards over the past 3 games, gives him topped Michael Vick's 294 yards over 3 games stretch in 2006 as the most in the Super Bowl era. He is now the leading rusher on the team, 490 yards to LaShawn McCoy's 479. By the way, McCoy is day-to-day with a hamstring issue. Chris Ivory's beat up as well. So, look, I think you're paying. You're not paying much, but the throwing ability worries me a little bit. It doesn't have exactly a high-end receiving core. Kyle, where are you at on quarterbacks this week?
Yeah, I just want to mention, Justin, I don't feel like you're chasing points there with Josh Allen because you're chasing volume. I mean, that's what, that's the next step looking back if you're asking why. Why is he scoring all these points? Volume. He's averaging 10.3 attempts in these 3 games back, averaging 112 rushing yards, and he was just one shy. I believe it was 99 yards 3 games ago. Like, you're banking so much rushing volume, and you're banking passing volume, despite, Bob, like you said, it's not the best one. Too excited about it, but you're banking passing volume. But he makes big plays. Yeah, he makes big plays on both parts of the field, on both aspects of the game, and that gives him an incredible floor just in terms of overall volume. And in tournaments, I'm looking to pay all the way up to Russell Wilson, 6,700. He's the highest QB on the slate, but he dropped his disgusting dud in that awful game you mentioned. I think that's going to keep his ownership super low, despite him having the awesome spot against the 49ers that we already talked about.
Anyone else you like this week, outside of the guys we've talked about, or are you pretty much dialed in? It seems like both you guys love Russell Wilson. Anyone else that tickles your fancy?
I think in tournaments I'll have a little bit of exposure to Lamar Jackson. I'm just not sure that given how little he passes, that you're getting that much upside. And when you look at upside in terms of running game, what's the difference between him and Josh Allen? You're getting more passing upside. The only reason I mention him in tournaments over Josh Allen specifically is because he gets an awesome matchup with Tampa Bay. I think maybe this could be his best passing game of the season for him. But that's a smaller part of my overall, what to call it, compared to Russell Wilson, who I just love.
For the older kids, Lamar Jackson, Kendrick Lamar, 2 different people. Running backs. Let's go, Kyle. Who do you like at running back this week?
Paying up, we've got 2 running backs. There are 2 running backs you look at when you pay up: Saquon Barkley and Elliott. And really the difference in their fantasy points per game, or at least their fantasy points this week, is super negligible, so I'm just going to go with the savings. Zeke, 9K, second highest running back on the slate in terms of salary. Probably will score in the top 2 running backs as well. He's getting more targets this season than he has in the previous 2 seasons combined, despite playing just over half as many games. He's their number 2 receiver right now as it looks, and Indianapolis allows the most targets and receptions to running backs. I think he is just a lock for points every week and lock for volume, which is what we're chasing in cash. And then guys I'm looking at a little cheaper, Marlon Mack. Despite, if you exclude a weird Jaguars game, 6-0, that I don't, what do you take away from that? I can't take anything away from that because that just won't happen again, and if it does, you have my money, DraftKings. He's a lock for at least 15 touches in a game that I actually just am interested in targeting as a whole. I just think both these offenses are trending up. And then one last guy, tournaments, Dion Lewis. For the same thing I mentioned Russell Wilson at, will have this bias against him because Derrick Henry just had that incredible game. Can't take that away from him. But Dion Lewis, 4,600. Yeah, you got the Giants giving up the 7th most points to running backs. And Lewis still got 15 touches in that Derrick Henry blow-up spot. Henry got 17 carries, I believe, no target. Their volume is not that different. It's just a matter of efficiency, and that's a pretty week-to-week, oblong sphere type ball with type thing, is random.
Yeah, good points. Your counterpoints, Justin, at running back.
Yeah, Zeke's got the Q tag, but I mean, we talked about Amari Cooper. I think the addition of Amari, he's fine. Obviously, the addition of Amari Cooper helps Zeke Elliott out. I mean, defenses have to be really honest at this point in time. So I could see myself spending $9K on Zeke. I absolutely love Saquon Barkley, 9,400. People will see that OPRK on DraftKings, 3rd, indicating that the Tennessee Titans have been absolutely wonderful as far as plugging the run. But in actuality, they're giving up over 100 yards a game, and Barkley's been matchup proof, if you will. So I could see in tournaments, Saquon Barkley is involved in the passing game. We love that. The one name that I am on 100% at this point in time would be Joe Mixon, 6,100. Dreamy matchup against the Oakland Raiders at home. I mentioned him last week, 26 carries, 111 yards, touchdown, 5 receptions. Joe Mixon is the future at the running back position in the league. He's going to be a top 10 back in the next year or two if he's not that tonight. And I think he absolutely is that tonight. So I think it's a perfect spot. You're not spending $9,400 on Barkley. I think Mixon can provide similar numbers to Saquon Barkley, especially in a matchup like this, and you're saving $3,400. From pay down, I mentioned that I like the Patriots Steelers game. I'm fine with Jalen Samuels for his price tag, $5,200. Cash games, only 11 carries for 28 yards, but he did have 7 receptions. We certainly like that, where DraftKings benefits you for receptions PPR format. Derrick Henry, I feel like we'll be chasing points. It's 5K. Why was that an anomaly? I don't know.
That's the most anomalous game I've ever seen.
Wait, I know it was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Look at his weekly total.
Yeah, I know. Look, there have been, and this offseason there were a lot of Derrick Henry optimists. The kind of the yin and yang with Dion Lewis. Historically, so far in his young career, he hasn't been, but he was what he did against Jacksonville was unbelievable. But if you get half of that production, you're whistling Dixie for 5K. Like that, Kyle, there's another old man line. But if there's one more player that I will touch on, it might be Jeff Wilson, where Braid has been playing with an injury all season long. It's finally caught up to him. 23 carries, 90 yards, 2 receptions last week, 4,600. This is kind of like the Lamar Miller feel to me in terms of you're paying for volume, and you're almost being assured that this guy's going to get the football 20 plus times, and we like that, particularly at a discount.
Well played, Justin. Allow me to retort.
Mm-hmm.
On Joe Mixon, you tickled my fancy, which would probably get us arrested in a number of countries.
Yeah, right.
Not our own, fortunately. On the Henry, look, in fantasy, there's a thing we call chasing points. And as much as I'd like Derrick Henry to be a thing, and he may well be, I'm not saying he's not, I just, looking at the point, he doesn't break double digits every single week, let alone hit 47. So I am optimistic. Look, and part of this was, and I'm just to throw this out there because it's just watching that game. The Jacksonville linebackers, they're not the big brute linebackers. They're the smaller, speedier linebackers, right? That seemed to work in Henry's favor in this game. And maybe it is possible, I will grant you this, that Matt LaFleur is finally getting this offense dialed in and figuring out what everyone does well, and he's maybe taking advantage of it. Mm-hmm. And you're right, the price isn't crazy for Henry, but careful, kids. All right, wide receivers. Justin, go.
Again, Patriots, Steelers game, it's a game that I love. And being in New England, what happened with the Patriots was catastrophic, to say the least, the other day. Their secondary is atrocious. So I'm going to need some AB, or I'm going to need some Juju. And if I want a discount, I'm probably going to have Juju. But you could justify playing Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster in the same game. They're both, 8,500, 8K for Juju, and mix in a Julian Edelman into that stack using Ben or Tom Brady. I'm absolutely fine with that. It's a position that's deep, so there's a number of routes that we can go. From paying way down, we all thought I thought it was going to be a Zay Jones week. It turned out to be a Reuben Foster week last week. I might go back to Zay Jones if I want somebody on the cheap, but I tend to find myself paying up at this point in time this week for wide receivers, and I might want some Julio Jones. Historically, early in his career, he owned Patrick Peterson. Big size difference there. So in tournaments, I love Julio Jones. 8,500. His ceiling is as high as anyone's. We can find some wiggle room at running back in terms of price, which gives us the ability to pay up at wide receiver. So tonight, it's Julio Jones, AB, Juju Smith-Schuster. I might want some Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has been as steady as anyone in the NFL. I feel very, very comfortable week to week playing, with Aaron Rodgers throwing all the scrutiny surrounding Aaron Rodgers this year. One interception for Aaron Rodgers this year. So Devontae Adams feels the safest out of that whole crowd. But
11 different Bears have interceptions this year. We'll see if that low number continues. And I'll just throw out, you meant Robert, not Reuben Foster somewhere. Robert Foster's going, please fix that.
Sorry.
And in addition, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out, I haven't looked at the PFF grades yet, but I'm thinking Gronk is coming down really low in the safety rankings this week. So, he can't cover anybody or make tackles. So great plays. The Steelers, I guess. I like what Shannon Sharp said about that. You don't get a nice tablecloth and use it for a shower curtain. Get Gronk out of the secondary, Belichick.
Unbelievable.
Right, would you not use Josh Gordon there if you were? Anyway,
it's unbelievable.
If that play had not worked, we would all not be paying any attention to all this. All right, Kyle, give me your wide receivers and use all the right names.
I'll work on that. I think Justin had at least one with Julian Edelman. He has 1,700 this week on DK, and he gets that sweet Pittsburgh slot linebacker coverage that we saw Keenan Allen get. I don't know if we'll see as much of it because that was incredibly egregious, but I do think that attacked Pittsburgh in the best game of the weekend was the over 50.5. But it's easily the highest. For once, we have a slate with those disgusting 2017, 2016 when offense was garbage. We didn't have Patrick Mahomes. Last year, Drew Brees wasn't as good. Now we've got these good offenses, but the slates are back down to a little bit normal right now because we have some lower scoring games. I love targeting this one as many ways as you can. Tyler Lockett, if I'm going Russell, absolutely going Tyler Lockett. And I like David Moore too. I just think Tyler Lockett, preferred option, even despite him being more expensive. 6,200, his volume isn't absurd right now, but he gets those Russell Wilson targets. You got to go up north. You got to go into an alley and be like, I'm looking for some Russell Wilson targets. A guy who could get some. Russell Wilson steps out of the shadows and throws you a touchdown every time, despite only throwing 20 times in a game. Finally, John Brown. I think this is if I go Lamar Jackson in some of my more contrarian tournament lineup, he leads the team in targets, leads the team in air yards with Lamar Jackson, leads the team in air yards pretty easily, despite them being a low volume offense in terms of their passing. This is the uber contrarian stack in terms of trying to get a pass catcher on a low volume offense with a quarterback who's been inaccurate, but all it takes is one John Brown bomb to make this pay off. So I think that's one more interesting way to really get a contrarian.
I am a moth and John Brown is the flame. And I would also suggest Tyler Lockett often looks down at the boundary lines, unlike David Moore, who, yes, I might be a little bitter that he did not pull in that touchdown by looking down at the floor and cost me a playoff spot. But that's besides it. This is not about me. This is about you. So, Justin, give us the tight ends you love the most this week.
Well, I don't love many of them, per usual.
I said the most.
Yeah, the most. We are now at a point in time where we're paying a George Kittle premium, which used to be the Rob Gronkowski premium. And Rob Gronkowski was sub 5K last week, which I was all over, which I think everybody should be. And I'm still going to be all over him. At Pittsburgh, love this game. Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end in football. We can all agree if they're going to be successful, it's going to run through Rob Gronkowski. And I would go on to say Julian Edelman and obviously James White. So if I'm going to pay, quote unquote, pay up, it's going to be Rob Gronkowski. I don't know Jared Cook is a thing. He's had 2 back-to-back weeks. Kind of feel like Jason points there. He can have a dud as well as anybody. He can also knock the top off a defense as well. There's not a lot of pass catchers in Oakland. So Cook, 5,600. You might get solid wide receiver production out of him. I can see people going towards Cameron Brate. Jameis Winston loves him. 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns. It feels kind of icky to me. It's not a week where I'm seeing dirt cheap bottom feeders in the sea of mediocrity that I'm going to gravitate towards. So tonight, and it's probably not going to change that much, it's not going to be a Vance McDonald. It's probably not going to be an Evan Ingram or Austin Hooper's dink. It's going to be Gronk. It's going to be Jared Cook, and I'm unfortunately I have to spend a little more this week.
Kyle, what are you spending?
It's absolutely going to be a Vance McDonald week. Justin, how could you say such a thing? No, it's a tournament play only. I mean, he's not getting extreme volume like we see with guys like Eric or Jared Cook. But I do think if you love this game, you have to find, I talk about it, you have to find ways to attack the popular in at least somewhat contrarian ways, because this Pittsburgh Patriots game is easily the highest total on the slate. We've got a bit of a smaller slate with the Saturday games. So it's going to be super popular, and should you be rostering Vance McDonald and Ben throws 2 to him, that's all you need to really nail the slate. So he's a tournament guy for me alone in cash. Eric Ebron for me, 5,900. I have in my notes, he's like the 1B receiver on this team. It's like, I can't even assign them letters between he and T.Y. Hilton. And you look 2 weeks ago when in that ugly Jags game, I believe he still got 16 targets. It seems like no matter what happens in a game, Eric Ebron will be part of the plan, and he's bound to score a touchdown, whether it be on the ground somehow with a shovel pass or something. I wouldn't be surprised if he recovers a fumble in the end zone. I think I'm going to call that once before the end of the year. He's got to have a fumble recovery in the end zone touchdown. But he's a good bet to score. He's got great volume. That's just it's a recipe for success on a great Colts offense.
I would call you out on this, but I cannot argue the point. It's impossible. One point I can argue is I'm shocked, dismayed, and somewhat surprised that nobody's predicting big rebound numbers for any of the Rams going against that Eagles secondary. But what do I know? I like mumble rap. So, all right, let's move on to defense. Kyle, give me your defenses this week.
You found a way to unite both Justin and Mike.
You're welcome.
Thanks, I guess. Anyways, defense this week. I'm looking to get maybe some Ravens in cash, 3K, but they're playing Tampa Bay, who, while they do throw the ball well when they're trying to score and put up yards, they also throw the ball well to the other team. They are, I believe, leading the league in interceptions. Jameis Winston, super turnover prone. I think this is a safe high floor play, but if I'm looking at a little more ceiling, I like the Bills 2,800 this week, and I think with the amount of rushing we see Josh Allen get, it's an interesting stack that I think I'll be looking at because he's their de facto running back. Bob, you said it. He's leading the team in rushing yards. That's absurd, first of all, for Josh Allen. Good on him, regardless of what you thought of him as a prospect, finding ways to get it done. But also, if you see him as their running back, then you want to stack a running back with the defense. And Detroit just looks abysmal right now. They don't seem to have anything going on offense outside of Zach Zenner, obviously. It's just I'm not sure if Kenny Galladay's not ready, or they're just not sure how to scheme him in ways that he can operate as the team's only viable receiver on a week outside of Bruce Ellington, nearly negative average depth of target. But it's just I feel confident in saying that the Lions aren't a good offense, and I thought with the weapons they had, they would be good. Then one of them got hurt. They traded the other one away. Kerryon Johnson looked good. Hurt. All they have is Zach Zenner anymore. And despite how much I love Zach Zenner, I don't know if you can build your team around purely running the ball. So I like the Bills this week. And the Bills have a good defense in general. It's just been hard early in the season when you're losing by so much because you're offensing the ball over with Peterman to put up good defensive performances. Now that seems to be balancing out a little bit. Bills defense 2,800.
And somewhere Trippy Red and Little Yachty are out there going, that's right. All right, Justin.
I actually thought you were just like ad-libbing, like, oh, kids like mumble rap. You actually have references to mumble rap. That's way more than I thought you had.
Yeah, let's go. Defense, Justin.
That's good stuff. And gentlemen, real quick side note: Eric Ebron had 8 touchdowns at the University of North Carolina in his 3 years at North Carolina. 13 this season. Couldn't get half of that production when he was the sole tight end with Matthew Stafford in Detroit. So it's unbelievable what a story Eric Ebron has been. But in terms of defenses, one defense has popped to my mind, and it's because I would agree with you, Kyle. I do like the Baltimore Ravens against Pick 6 Jameis at home. The Ravens are a damn good unit, both in the air and on the ground. So if I'm going to pay up, it's going to be 3K for the Baltimore Ravens. I like the New York Giants and what they're doing as a unit. They're at home against Marcus Mariota. 18 DraftKings points week 14, 17 week 13. Interceptions, sacks. I mean, they have 9 interceptions over the last 4 weeks. Let's see, 14 sacks. So the price is right, 2,600. I think that this obviously the ceiling is there, and I feel like, it takes time. December is a month where NFL defenses and offense, we really figure out what these teams are, and the Giants as a unit have played terrific over the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to ride the hot hand. And the Giants defense that won the first Super Bowl against the Patriots, that was an incredible defense. They coasted their way into winning the Super Bowl. So it's interesting to watch defenses gel over time late in the season. Sometimes that obviously carries them deep into the playoffs.
The Giants are not playing Mark Sanchez this week. This just in. But, and I wish the Texans against the Jets was on the Sunday slate, but it's not. As for the Eric Ebron's shortcomings in Detroit, I don't know if I blame Matt Stafford, maybe Jim Bob Cooter, but we're doing rap tonight. We'll save the hot Cooter talk for another episode.
Yeah, yo.
iHeart's podcast.
I'm down.
All right, Kyle. By the way, you should hit the website. There's all kinds of great stuff there every single week, including the works of young Kyle Dvorchak and young thug Justin Lonero is digging in the crates. All kinds of great tools, videos, podcasts, everything you need to set your lineups each and every week. So let's call it a night and get ready for some winning.
It has been a night indeed, and if you want to get, if you want to get mumble rap takes, you can find us all on Twitter. Find Bob at Football Diehard, myself at FF Kyle the Kid, and Justin Lonero at Old Man Lonero. No, Justin Lonero. Justin Lonero at Justin Lonero. That's the show, everyone. Thanks for listening.